This meeting is being recorded.
Well, that is loud. All right. So good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This is an important program that we're putting together in partnership with Elms College, Dr. Janice Fedor, Junior Achievement of Western Massachusetts, and Santander Bank. So I'm just going to go ahead and just do a little quick bio on everybody that's going to be talking today, and then I'll pass it over to Jennifer. So we're going to start off with, we had Jennifer Connolly, president of Junior Achievement of Western Massachusetts. She has more than 35 years of experience in the nonprofit operations. She joined JA of Western Mass as a development director in 2003. And after serving 4 years as the program manager for JA of Maine, she became the president in 2006. Then we have Dr. Janice Fedor. She's worked in higher education for the past 2 decades. Wow, like I need to get my education game up. So she's worked in the education for the past 2 decades as a professor, administrator, advisor, and as a consultant. She has experience with public and private colleges, charter schools, and private prep high schools. And then we have Michelle Jarvis Lippman. She joined Elms College as Director of Financial Aid in January of 2022. She has 15 years of experience with student financial services with positions at Worcester State University, Springfield Technical Community College, Wesleyan University, University of Hartford, and Iron Bridge Resources, LLC. And then last but not finally, my name is Angel Brigado. I am the Community Partnership Manager here at Santander Bank. I've been with the bank since 2013. I've been a Community Partnership Manager since 2016, and I've been in banking for 20 years, no, 15 years. Wow, no, 15 years. So I want to thank again each and every one of you for being a part of this new endeavor that we're trying to put together to help you in your future. And I will pass it over to Jennifer.
Thank you very much, Angel. I appreciate it. And we're very excited for this new opportunity and to grow our partnership with Santander. And I'm going to share my screen and give it to Michelle. So hold on.
Okay, perfect. All right, so this morning, my job is to essentially talk to you about financial aid and the process on how to apply for financial aid. This is for if you're gonna go off to college, whether it be a 2-year school, a 4-year school, private or public. This one in particular form is gonna get you started and get you to see what type of money you'll qualify for in terms of financial aid. Next slide. So once again, these are the presenters today. This is our information. Again, if you have questions, you can let us know at any point. Next slide, we'll just keep going. I'll try not to bore you too much. I know money is not always the best topic, especially when you have to spend it, but I'm hoping you guys can get some tips from this so that you feel a little bit more at ease when you go to apply for financial aid. So when you're applying for financial aid, you're going to use the FAFSA. So it's the free application for federal student aid. The big part about that is free. You do not have to pay to apply for financial aid. So if anybody is trying to tell you you need to pay so that you can see what kind of money you're going to get to go to school, huge red flag. Don't do it. Contact somebody because you should not be paying to see what you qualify for. Financial aid is a very broad term because it can mean so many different things. Financial aid can mean free money. It could mean loans. Loans have to be paid back. And it can be work study. Work study is something you get a job on campus and get a paycheck from week to week. So all of that, all of those three things come into and make financial aid. Next slide. So for most of you, when you're applying for the FAFSA application, you're going to need your parent to be there with you. And that's very important. Even though I know some of you are very independent, you work, you can kind of take care of yourself. Most of the time you will need your parent to be involved when you're filling out the FAFSA application. This is some of the information that you're going to need while you're applying for the financial aid process. So name, date of birth, social security number. That's a social security number is so important to have for financial aid. It's the only way we know it's you. So I know when you're doing, applications to apply for colleges, you may not necessarily need to put that on, but for financial aid, we really, really need your social security number because we need to verify it is you, it is the correct information, and that we know we can't just go based by your name because there's duplicate names out there. You'll need tax information if you have filed taxes, you and your parent. The good thing is now is we're using a couple years back of tax information. So if you're planning on going to college in the fall, we're going to be asking for your 2020 tax returns. Majority of the people have already covered that and have already submitted their 2020 tax returns. So it should just be a quick pull up in your file and submit your tax information. The big thing that also you'll need is to create an FSA ID. We all know we all have usernames and passwords. This is another thing that you'll have to have as well. And you'll want to keep this forever because once again, it's tied to that social security number of yours. So it's going to hold with you forever. Even if you change your name or, anything like that, this FSA ID is going to be tied to you forever. And that's how you're going to sign the FAFSA, sign off on your loan documents and anything else involving financial aid through the federal government. And the last piece you'll need when you're doing the FAFSA is the school code. So the good thing is about the school code is you can actually look up each school individually on the FAFSA application. So if you want to say go to Elms College and you're not sure what our school code is, you would type in Elms College while you're on the FAFSA form and the code will pop up for you. You need to add each code to the form of each school that you want to apply to, because without that code, we can't receive your information. So if you just leave it blank, the FAFSA won't go anywhere. So you want to make sure that school code is out there so each school gets your FAFSA information. Next slide. So once again, with the FSA ID, this is very, very important to create and use and hold on to. It's also very important that you don't share this information, just like your social security number. People tell you, don't give that out. Don't send that over email. This is something you want to hold on to. It's yours and it's electronic signature through the federal government. And like I mentioned before, the FSA ID can be used for other things as well. You'll be able to check your loan history. You'll be signing documents for your loan. So this is a very, very important thing to have. Next slide. So there's some important or helpful tips that I like to share with families, students, and parents. If you are a parent or if you want to let your parent know, if there are multiple of you getting ready to go off to college, or there's already some in school, some getting ready to go to school in a couple of years, the FAFSA needs to be filled out for each one of you. That FAFSA is yours, not your parents. Even though your parent is signing it, it's still under your name. So if you have 6 siblings that are all getting ready to go off to college, your parent's going to have to do this 6 times. So take it easy on them and maybe, do one a day, but the parent needs to do it for each student. Make sure you get all your documents together before you start, so you're organized and ready to go, so you don't feel, the stress of it, because again, it can be a little overwhelming when you first start the process and you've never done it before. So if you have all that information ahead of time, it'll make the process a lot smoother for you. I do believe we're going to be sending out this presentation. So there is a FAFSA worksheet online. So when you get ready to do it and you have questions or concerns or you're not really sure, there's some helpful tips while you're going through it. And there's a nice tool in there that you can use as well. So I encourage everybody to go in and take a look at that. If you're feeling, again, anxious and not quite sure, use that worksheet. Make sure you write down your FSA ID and password. It's not always easy to get that information readily available to you. They won't just send you a link to, reset your password if you, like forget your email. So that you have to go through checks and, verify your identity and make sure you are who you say you are. So please keep that information in a secure location. And check
Michelle,
deadline.
okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Michelle, can I just make a comment?
Yep.
Okay, so the top line is very important. I'm a parent of two children in college at the same time. So, this really hits home with me, but I think a lot of families have more than one kid in college at the same time. So the fact that the FAFSA information follows the student and not the parent, I think is a super important point to make.
Mhm.
And also I wanted to ask you, what about next year? Do I have to fill out the FAFSA forms again next year for my multiple? I just want to know what we're getting into here and maybe save all the documents in one place in one file, because if you've got multiple children in different colleges and you have multiple years. So we're going to have to do this exercise again and apply for FAFSA for each year, right? It's not just you do it once and then you're good for 4 years.
Correct. You'll
Okay,
have
yeah,
to
just
do
wanted
this
to make-
every year. Yep.
Throw that out there. You are going to have to do this again next year. So it's better to be organized, keep everything in one file. And then next year, oh, it's not so bad because we did it last year. And
Correct.
I would have the same FAFSA code and all of that for the following year, right?
Correct.
does
Yep.
that
And when you go
expire?
to renew the process, most of your demographic information
Okay,
and same information is going to repopulate over. You're just going to refill in your new tax
Sure.
information.
so it's going to auto-populate the next year. So really the first time you do this is the worst,
Yes.
And then after that, you're in the system, you've got your code, you go back in and then you update. Okay.
Yep.
That's a little bit easier to wrap your head around, especially when you have multiple kids in the same family.
Yes.
And then you've got multiple years of college too.
Yes.
So, okay. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Continue. Sure.
And then even with those multiple students, everybody's going to have a different deadline. So make sure you check with the schools that you're applying to and you know what their deadlines are so you meet those deadlines. So one school could say, we need your FAFSA by January 1st, but another school might say, hey, we don't need it till April. Make sure you check those deadlines. The FAFSA does actually open up in October for the following year. So again, if you're going to school this fall for fall 2022, the FAFSA opened up October 2021. So it's giving you plenty of time to get in, get your information going and send it off to the schools. Next slide. I try not to tell people to panic. Again, I know it can be very stressful and overwhelming. It's an exciting time also. I want to point that out. I mean, especially if you're getting ready to take this next step and go off to college, money I know plays an important part of it. So please try not to panic. So I've been doing this for a very, very long time. I have colleagues been doing this for a long time. We want to hear from you. We want your questions. We want to be able to help you navigate this process so you don't feel that stress. We want this to be exciting for you. So you just, take your time. There's a lot of tips along the way. FAFSA has come a long way for some older people like myself who used to have to do it on paper.
Yep.
And mail it in with a stamp.
Yep.
It's not like that anymore. They've really done a really good job in trying to streamline the process and make it not so overwhelming for families and just asking the questions that they really need to be asking. Each school that you're applying to has a financial aid office, has contact people. Reach out to them if you have questions, or if you're not sure, reach out to the admissions staff. Somebody will be able to get you in line with somebody to help you through that process should you have any questions or concerns. Some schools might ask you for more information. And when they do that, again, if you are lost and confused, ask questions. Not every school is going to ask for something, but some schools might. So you just got to be ready. And again, if you have all your paperwork and documentation organized, it'll be easier for you to send off what is needed. And next slide, because I think that's it. And that is it. So we have questions, comments, concerns. Did I freak everybody out already and nobody wants to apply for financial aid?
We have a question in Putnam.
I was wondering, when you meet by next year, like the same day we exactly applied on?
Can you say that one more time? I'm sorry.
Asking, do they have to apply at the same time every year? Like
So
say,
it'll depend on each school. So your first year, you're probably going to apply a lot earlier than you would be if you're a returning student. But again, I would check with the school. The FAFSA will open up that October. So if you're ready to go in October, I like to tell students, just get it done and out the way, and then you don't have to worry about it.
I have a quick question for you. My son went to Fitchburg, and he had applied for financial aid, so he got, I don't know, a grant, $1,000 grant. But he also had worked on getting a scholarship, and he got a scholarship for $1,000. But Fitchburg took the grant away from him and gave him the scholarship. Why does that happen?
Some schools that will happen because it's called cost of attendance. So there's a number that the student can't go over in terms of need-based aid. A scholarship is considered need-based aid because it's based on your family contribution. So while Fitchburg State doesn't have a high cost of attendance, as say somebody like Elms, when you receive outside funding, they're going to take back the money that they gave you and replace it with the outside scholarship. So each school will be different for that process. So if you are planning on getting outside scholarships, you need to see if they're just going to add it to your financial aid package or if something else will be taken away because of it.
Thank you. Good to know, guys.
That's a good question.
Anybody else have questions?
I have a student with a question.
Okay.
So she gave it to me, so I'm just gonna ask. So it's two-part. The first part is, if you're 18, do you need a parent? And if you do bring a parent, if you're a legal adult, what is their role? Is it still the same, or how does it change?
Yes, so even though you're 18, you're still considered a dependent student in terms of financial aid. You'll be considered dependent until you're 24 years old. So you will be using your parent information especially if you're going right off to college, for the duration of the time. And their role is going to be providing their tax information, name, date of birth, social security information, same thing as you in the FAFSA, and then signing off on it.
Michelle, does it always go 2 years back as far as the taxes? Okay.
It does
so-
go 2 years back now. That's been a change. That was a change during the Obama administration to get easier access to students, because most people have already done their tax return 2 years ago. Instead of
Right.
trying to say, we need your 2021 taxes right now.
And
some
we're still
people are
working on 2021 taxes.
Exactly.
So,
So it makes it
okay.
easier. However, if there's a big change in circumstance, especially, I think, financial aid is going to see this quite often with everything going on with the
Right.
pandemic. The base year is 2020.
okay,
Say your parent unfortunately lost their job in 2021.
yeah,
Once you file those 2021 taxes, you need to contact that financial aid office and say, hey, we have a change in circumstance. How can I give you my new information? So
right.
that also opens up the flexibility of us looking to see to actually get a true picture of what is going on. It gives us some wiggle room if something really did change.
Which is another reason to keep everything organized and in one place, because this is kind of a living document. You're going to need to keep updating it if things, change. And then also the following year, you need to go back in and fill everything out for the next year. Hopefully it's
Yes.
easier because things are pre-populated, but as circumstances change. So that's good advice.
Yes,
Ben has a question.
I think so.
Yeah, this is a follow-up to the original question. So
Sure.
what if you are 18 and an independent? So this student pays for everything, files taxes separately, is essentially,
Still need your parent info. Still need the parent. So you would need the special circumstance list is very small in terms of being independent. So you would need to be supporting a child in legal guardianship, parent passed away. Those they have to be a really big extenuating circumstance for us not to use your parent information. But so even though you file taxes separately, you work, you kind of do everything, you pay for your car, you're still going to need your parent information.
Thank you.
These are good questions.
Well, Michelle, since we've lived through the paper process to now the online process, do we, I have to say that the online is easier because of the fact that when you go in to do next year's and it, pre-populates and such, you're not starting from scratch again. You're just going and updating your document. So I think that, that's really, really helpful. So what other changes in FAFSA have you seen over I know you've been doing this a long time, Michelle. What other changes in FAFSA have you seen over the years?
The other big thing with the FAFSA, especially when it comes to your tax information, is you can pull it directly from the IRS. So if you filed your tax return in a timely manner, you'll be sent to a different site from the IRS and be like, hey, this is me. Please take my information and put it right into the FAFSA because that eliminates error. And that's what we have to go by. So that's a great tool that has been used. Not everybody can use it, but it does cut back on the errors for that. So that has been something really, really big and key.
Oh yeah, and that's so much more efficient when you can just pull from one site, but again, passwords, username, password, you have to keep all that. Otherwise, you can't share that information unless you've got all the correct passwords.
Correct. Yep. And again, they are continuing to streamline the process. Last year, we started to being able to slowly waive the selective service requirement. So for those of you who are born male, have to currently register for selective service, which is the draft, in order to qualify for financial aid. Don't ask me why. That's just been the rule.
Sure.
But they are phasing out that question. And it should be gone by 2023 from my understanding. So, and again, it's a weird thing because it's males only and not females. It was just an odd thing, but back a long time ago, only males were going off to college. So it has taken Congress and the Department of Ed a very, very long time to get up to speed on some of these questions. So the fact that we are electronic and have streamlined it says a lot, but now they're actually starting to dig in to see okay, does this matter for financial aid purposes? Are we not going to give you money because you don't register for selective service? So those little questions like that, they're trying to slowly start phase out because it's one less thing you have to worry about.
Well, going off to college and being drafted or have the chance of being drafted, but no, that is interesting. So this, like everything else, gets updated and changed over time.
Over time, yes.
Sure. Looks like Ben has some maybe.
Yeah, I didn't know if Ben was coming back or.
It's like he wanted us to wait a minute. How's that? Any other questions in Putnam? I noticed you guys taking notes. That's great. Oh, we have go ahead.
If I were to apply to an out-of-state college, would the process be any different?
No, it would not. In terms of the FAFSA, it would not. And that's the great thing about it. It's for all schools. So no matter, you can go to California, you can stay in Massachusetts, all these schools that are, if you're applying for federal aid, you're going to use this process.
And right in the form, you just click on it and you put in, and it pops up with the school code, right, Michelle?
Yep.
Yeah, so you don't even have to know the school code or look it up yourself. It's right in there, which is
It's
also
right in there. Once you type in the school, it'll give
Yeah.
it to you. Yep.
Ben, did you have another question?
No,
Okay. So I think we're, unless there's any other questions, I think we've done a great job. If you have questions, anybody in the class has questions, or when you get home, if you talk to your family about this and they have questions, your teachers have my email. They can email me and we'll get the questions out to Michelle or Dr. Fedor. And we will actually get back to you with any kind of answers that you need, okay? So use us as a resource. And we truly appreciate Santander for hosting this. We are going to have this program tonight at 6 o'clock in case you want to tune in from home and your parents want to ask any questions. So Angel, do you want to close us out?
Absolutely. So it's extremely important for you to take note of what, the things that we discussed today. I know some of it is very like, oh my God, it's so much stuff. But it's important for you to take back this information to your parents and have this discussion with your parents. College may not be for everyone, all right? But you should know your options, all right? Know what's out there. Vocational schools, trade schools, so many different types of avenues that you can take in your future that, when I was growing up, they told us to stay away from, and now those are like one of the most lucrative enterprises out there. Trade schools, especially, working with your hands, it's a blessing. Also, when you're looking at schools, whether it's in-state or out-of-state, look at the cost, okay? Degrees are degrees. Yes, you have, Ivy League and things like that, but education is education. And sometimes it's better to graduate college with more money in your pocket than it is to graduate college with more debt. And that's why FAFSA is so important. Financial aid is so important. And I will tell you this last thing. I will tell you that the best friends, as soon as you get to college, the best friends that you need to make sure that you bring them chocolate and anything they need is the financial aid office. Because I learned that very young, my first semester in college, that the best friends to make in your first year of college is going to be the financial aid office, because they will help you. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And to Jennifer's point, if you have any questions after this, or if your parents have any questions, they're more than welcome to join tonight's class. And if they're unable to send a link, to send an email or a question over to Jennifer, and we'll get you we'll get them the resource and we'll get them the help.
Absolutely.
Once again, I want to thank everyone for joining. Jennifer, thank you so much for your partnership. And I hope everybody has a very beautiful, beautiful day.
Great. Thank you, Angel.
Thank you.